Shut up and sit down.
Welcome once again to the Shite Talk podcast show. Mark Kearns, Ken Riley.
What's the story?
Episode 157 of the Shite Talk 58 of the Shite Talk podcast show. 158. Yes, 157 was last week. Getting closer and closer to the 204 golden show, which we still haven't prepared for. This is going to be like what I imagine a lot of people's leaving certs were going to be, which is just cramming. We're going to do that just in terms of 204. We're just going to forget about it until it's like too late. And then we'll
forget about it until the day we're recording it.
Yeah, and then we're like, I wonder if we can get Michael D. Higgins on late notice.
That'd be great.
He might come on. We might have to like make up a different name of the podcast and go, we lied about the name, but we're serious about having you on. Yeah, but so like we could call ourselves some other podcast. We'll call ourselves some other podcast, get him to come on, and he'd be like,
we'll call ourselves the Michael D. Higgins podcast.
Michael D. Higgins Fan Club Pod.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, or the Irish History. He might come on and he's like, I love history. It's like, you're at the right place. But I think be completely shocked when he actually hears what shite we go on about.
I'd say he'd love it.
I think he would. I think he has a soft bit for nonsense. And we got plenty of that this week on the show.
And every week.
It's like we have this on tap. And we are going to be talking about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We're going to be talking about reboots today.
Yeah.
I recently have become a fan of reboots. Ken is
not so much
reboots. We're going to be talking about this. We're also going to be talking about a guy who sold a chocolate factory. So, and it's described as Willy Wonka, the real life Willy Wonka. So that'd be quite interesting. And since Leaving Cert Points has just been announced, there's a lot of kind of controversy around Ireland for Leaving Cert Points because they were perceived to be like just grading up. So a lot more people, it was the highest amount of points ever in the country for the Leaving Cert. And everyone seems to do better than they probably did. So they're graded on an upward curve. So a lot of people giving out about who were trying to get in college from last year, saying that the points inflation was too much, as well as people trying to decide of what college points they actually need now that everyone did better than they thought. Because obviously they're going to be looking for higher points. So we're going to be talking about whether or not we think actually college is important or is it a waste of time. So we're discussing that. We have a new segment, Ken. Kind of excited about this new segment. Be honest, it could be just like every other show's story, but we've decided to branch off and go idiots news. So this is news for idiots, but also contains people being idiots.
This is something we should have probably done ages ago.
I kind of feel like we're just rebranding what we already did. Like we used to commonly talk about like idiots doing dumb things. It's kind of what our show is all about.
So you could say it's a reboot.
So what we're doing. So what we're doing
is a shite reboot.
This is a rebranding of the same thing. So we're going to be talking about all the idiots news, and there's some really big doozies there of people doing really dumb things. As well as that, we have a conspiracy theory to talk about, and we also have a hair salon to talk about.
Hopefully.
Like we're very ambitious today in the amount of content we have to get through within an hour. I highly doubt we'll get through all of it. But we'll do our best, and if not, we'll be back next week. And at least we have slightly less research. Not that we do a whole lot of research anyway on the podcast, but we do have to do even less next week, which is always a good thing.
Less work, more success.
Yes, exactly. I wonder if that's true also about the Leaving Cert. We'll get into that later on. But right now, we're going to be discussing reboots. I am recently, Ken, a fan of reboots because I've just finished watching Cobra Kai.
Yeah, I haven't watched this yet.
Cobra Kai is basically, it's not really a reboot. It's kind of a continuation of the Karate Kid, not the reboot of the Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid. And it's kind of what they've done 30 years after, and kind of follows both the bad guy in the movie. I've watched 2 seasons of it, and I don't know either of the guys' names. Like this,
One of them's called Johnny.
yeah, Johnny and the other guy. It follows the 2 main guys from the Karate Kid and how their lives have changed since the tournament. And it follows the Cobra Kai, which is the evil gym, and follows that Hagar and how his life has went down in the dumps ever since that tournament. And it's a really well done series because it kind of shows you what the whole idea of the punch first, punch hard, no mercy, what that meant, and like what positives can be taken from that, and that it's not necessarily just an evil kind of like mantra to have, and how it kind of help people build confidence. So it's kind of 2 ways of looking at a problem, and it's self-deprecating as well. So it just kind of takes the piss out of the Karate Kid movie as well as realizing that like people who grew up watching this movie are older, so there's a lot more kind of like in the window jokes and a lot more kind of slightly targeted at an older audience as well, because knowing that like kids today probably won't want to watch like something that's about karate.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
They might like if kids watch this, they might watch back the old Karate Kid movies.
Yeah, so like when before watching Cobra Kai, I was kind of against reboots. I kind of felt like it was a lazy person's way of like making a TV series. Instead of creating something new, you take something that was popular and you completely ruin it. Was my kind of idea of it. And it's probably something similar with that. What you think of reboots?
It's rare that you find a reboot that's worth a shit.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like good reboots are hard to come by. But when they're done,
it's usually worse than the original.
Yeah, 100%. Look at the reboot of the Karate Kid movie. The second one was a pile of dog shite. I don't think it did too well in the box office either. The one with Will Smith's kid in it.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
That wasn't great. And I see there are a lot of reboots, but there are still like original content being made. We still have likes of The Wire. We have Normal People, we have Game of Thrones, we have Vikings. We still have like new content coming out. So even though there's like a large body of reboot movies and reboots that are turned into series, we're still getting new content, which kind of blows my old theory of like, oh, this is just a quick way to make money off nostalgia, and it's kind of lazy because instead of like actually employing creators to make something original, they're just basically rebooting something that was popular 30 years ago and playing off that. You're still kind of getting this. Now, the reason why we're talking about this series isn't because of Cobra Kai. I do recommend people go watch Cobra Kai. I don't binge watch series, and I binge watch Cobra Kai. It's probably because I'm into martial arts, and I am a sucker for a bit of nostalgia when it's done right. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I said this again, and you completely rolled your eyes. You're like, ugh, it's gonna be shit.
Yeah.
I was the same. Like when I first read this, I thought it would be like Will Smith's kid. It's gonna play Will in this series. It's gonna not be great, and it completely went down a completely different line. It's more realistic based. It's more based on a drama, and it's set in the modern age. So it isn't gonna be set in the 90s. All the characters' names are the same. The storyline is the same storyline, but there's not really. It's not a comedy. So it's going to be...
Who's going to be in it?
I don't actually know. I should have actually wrote down the actors' names. All I have in the notes is the guy who is writing it. Will Smith's helping to write it, but Morgan Cooper basically created this trailer back in 2019, and him and Will Smith are going to be writing the script for the series, and it's going to be on, I think, NBC's streaming service. I think it's called like Peacock or something like that.
Peacock.
So hopefully it's not over here, Peacock, and it'll go on to Netflix or Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Peacock. NBC's Universal's Peacock streaming service is going to air the 2 series. Yeah, so that's the series, and it's going to be a reimagining of the 90s classic. Being works for some time. The progress has been made over the last few months, and yeah, it's not going to be a comedy. The new series will consist of a number of 1-hour shows that is darker and more dramatic than the original version.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Okay, so what I'll do after the show is I'll find the article that I found this on, or else I'll actually just upload the trailer from YouTube, the 2019 trailer. Watch the trailer. It should be on our Facebook page, and let us know what you think. If make up your mind then, because I was with you, Ken. I was very much on this. This is going to be shit. This is going to be an awful reboot. But after seeing the series, I was like, yes. Give me this. Hopefully Netflix buys it. I want to watch this. It did change my mind on not only if this Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is going to be good, but it's changed my mind on reboots altogether. Now, you do get shite reboots, like the Ghostbusters.
I wouldn't mind if instead of reboots, they did, like, continuations.
Yeah, because like the Cobra Kai was a continuation. It wasn't a reboot necessarily. So yeah, sometimes there is nice to see what happened to Will Smith.
Yeah, like, or even, I don't know, like fucking change up with a different family or some shit.
Yeah, even if it was like a Saved by the Bell's come back, I think Nickelodeon I might be bringing out a streaming service like for all 90s shows.
Didn't they like do that just after the original one ended? They brought in like the fucking new class. They did the college years and then it had the new class.
Yeah, so this I know this the Saved by the Bell, the continuation is going to be Zach comes back as a principal.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah, he comes back as a principal, and
I hate it already.
And like a few of the other cast members' kids are going to school, and there's some kind of problem there, like financial problem. And yeah, that's going to be the premise of the series is, or else he is a mayor of the town, and somebody takes over as the principal of the school or something like that. He's going to be in charge. He's going to have some kind of higher managerial position, and yeah, but I don't know. Like, there's no talk about it. This was like last year I was reading this. There's not been a whole lot of talk about it since. So, and I haven't heard too much about the Nickelodeon streaming service. I wasn't too sure if it was a streaming service or a series. Like, they're going to just bring out a Nickelodeon's 90s channel.
It's like, I don't know. In general, I don't like reboots.
It's definitely a lot worse reboots than there are good reboots.
There's a lot of like horror movie reboots, and a lot of them pissed me off.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing about horror movies that really turn me off. Like, all of them are just reboots of like the classic movies of 80s, 90s, and there's been 1,000,001 Saws. There's been like 10 million Chainsaw Massacres. Like, but then again, something comes along like The Shining, and it does catch my interest. Like, ooh, The Shining. Tell me more. I haven't seen a reboot of this.
Like, I don't mind continuations of things. Like, the new Halloween was good because it's a continuation. It's not, well, it's kind of a reboot, but it like ignores all the sequels except the first movie.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what you want new ideas.
Yeah, like, you don't, even if it's based in the same universe as an old idea, but don't just fucking reboot something. Do like something cool with it.
Yeah, because I think if you just try to, like, one of the reasons why like really bad reboots come to mind with me is like the Ghostbusters movie. And
yeah, that was terrible.
The reason why that was so bad was it was a reboot, and they basically tried to do the same thing, except they replaced all the men with women. And so first of all, it was like they're trying to make a political point, and then the second of all, they're trying to just do the exact same thing what they did with the original movie. It's just make it the same kind of comedy. They weren't adding anything to the story other than it's now going to be women instead of men, and they thought that would be enough to carry them over, which it wasn't. Whereas all the really good series is that, like the Will Smith one, like the Cobra Kai one, like the new Halloween series, they added to the story. They brought something new to the table that we haven't seen before. So we're not going to be like, oh, I prefer the old guy, or I prefer the old person, or this isn't as good as the old thing. We're not comparing it. We're going to go, oh, look all the new things.
Yeah, like I thought the reboot in Saw.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck reboot Saw? You could just continue it.
Well, yeah. I think there's 50 million Saws. Like, they've literally done that series to death.
Yeah, but like, what the fuck are you going to do in a reboot? You're going to just have the character recast.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I just think leave Saw the way it is. Leave, like, it started out, like, the first three are good, and then the 50 million ones that come after are just like, oh, let's try to get as gory as possible. It's just like,
It's good though.
yeah. Yeah, see, I'm not into gore. I'm into horror. I'm into something that, like it's meant to scare you. I also don't like, the first person camera play thing is like, I am so startled. I hate that. I hate it.
Have you seen Slenderman? Slenderman's good.
Oh, is it? No.
It's decent. Like, it's on Netflix. Like,
I might watch it then.
It's like, it's shite, but it's good.
Okay. Is it that I'm so startled, the one person camera thing, shaky camera?
No.
All right. Well, then, I might watch it. Like, in saying that, I did enjoy the Blair Witch Project, which is the epitome of shaky camera. I'm so startled. But it was the first one I ever seen that was like that. And then
This started it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, we'll definitely check out. We'll upload the video of Bel Air with Fresh Prince in it, and we'll let our fans make up their own mind whether they're a fan of it or not. But right now, we have precedent matters between a chocolate factory to talk about.
Would you like to own a chocolate factory? Did you watch Charlie or Willy Wonka and think, Jesus, you know what? I'd love that.
Do you know what? Yeah, do you know what? When I was in school, one thing me and my friends used to always talk about is owning either a chocolate factory or a cereal factory that made like really sweet cereals.
Like, this guy's giving away a jelly bean factory. Like, I fucking love jelly beans.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of jelly beans. Like, fizzy sweets now.
Jelly beans are the way to go. Like, jelly beans are the only substance on the planet that actually make me hyper.
Man, hard sweets. You're on to winner with hard sweets. You suck on them. They're great for planes. Old people give them to you when you're younger. It's great. Hard sweets.
Jelly beans all the way for me. I might actually do this contest thing.
Ken has a new career.
The guy who owns the jelly bean factory, David Klein, he's decided that he's going to retire. So he put a post on Facebook and he released an official statement saying, like, he's basically decided he's not ready to retire yet, but it's coming up to retirement age for him. So he's started a contest in all 50 states in America where he's going to have golden ticket treasure hunts. So the golden ticket's going to be in the form of a necklace, and he's going to hide it in secret locations, one in each state in America, and it's $50 to enter into the treasure hunt to get like the clues and stuff, and then each person who finds the necklace is then entered into another treasure hunt, and the winner of the second treasure hunt gets the keys to the jelly bean factory.
By the sounds of it, it's like all it is a money racking scheme. So, like, if you have 50 states, 100 people enter from each state. That's a lot of money.
Limited. He's limiting it to 1,000 participants, and each participant each person who finds a necklace gets a $5,000 prize.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, so this isn't like a kind of a racketeering scam where like he's just trying to make 50,000 to retire off. He's like, I need 50,000 to retire. I know what I'll do.
Yeah, like he's actually going to give each of them $5,000 when they find the necklace, and then enter them into another one to find the keys to the factory. Like that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah, so all that you have to do is go over to any state in America, spend a copious amount of time searching for a necklace, and you get €5,000. Like, and then how successful is this jelly bean factory? Like, how much of the world's supply of jelly beans does he make?
Oh, like a jelly bean factory, like that's like one of the biggest producers of jelly beans in the world.
So a lot then.
Yeah, like it's up there. What's the other one called? There's the jelly bean factory, and then there's, I can't remember what the other one's called.
All right. And like when you win this factory, are you just going to bring it back to Ireland, or do we have to do online podcast for the rest of our lives?
Well, you could come over and be like vice president of
The jelly
podcasts.
Vice president of podcast. I could do shares in the jelly bean. I'd be like the hard sweet part of this jelly bean factory.
Yeah, we could branch out, like
branch out, take over the sweet world.
Like, just think about that. Like, that's a mental thing to do.
Like, oh yeah, it is. Like, you imagine that like there's shareholders involved in such a large factory, and there would be like other interests. Like, very rarely do you find some large business that's owned solely by one person.
Yeah, and that person is eccentric as fuck.
Yeah, and it's like, I know what I'll do. Like, how easy would it be to make a replica of this necklace? And just go, I found one of your necklaces.
Yeah, well, I suppose you'd have to know what it looked like. You'd have to wait for somebody to find one first.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you'd have to wait till one of them's found, and then you'd have to find it and hope that no one finds it in the state, and then there's a kind of conflict of interest over who has the real one.
There's probably a way he probably has them serial numbered or something.
That's actually probably he's probably thought about this. How will people try to pull the wool over my eyes on this?
Or else he doesn't give a fuck, like.
Yeah, exactly. He's retiring. He's like, I just need to get rid of this factory. Instead of like selling it, like that's why imagine that he probably doesn't have kids if he's doing it this way. Or he's generally what you think he'd do is sell it, and then like with the money he'd put it into his like kids' inheritance or give it to charity.
Yeah, like, and then I just googled it there again just to see like how much of the world supply of jelly beans they come up with. And like 4 hours ago, a spokesman for the jelly bean company came out and said the company wants to distance themselves from this idea, and that it's like entirely up to the owner. Like he's the one that's doing it, but the jelly bean company want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so what you're saying is like there is actually a board of it's like, no, you can't do this because we are all investing in this company, and you only can sell your shares.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's probably going to be like legal action from investors.
Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I love how the company's like we're distancing ourselves from these allegations. Like we're going to be in process of suing your man now.
Yeah,
he must be just like, oh, why can't I give my shares away?
Yeah, why can't they give away my factory?
Yeah, well, first of all, he's like, it's not your factory, first of all. It's all of our factories. We've invested hundreds of millions of dollars into this factory.
But like, sure, if he's the majority stakeholder, though, he could do whatever he wants.
No, in order, like, no matter what, you've, by law in America, you have to do what's in the best interest of the shareholders. So if people invest in your company, you have to do what's seen to be in the best interest. That's why they're kind of forced to send their companies over to China or in the countries where they can mass produce the products cheaper, because the shareholders will, well, this is the best move for the company. It's bringing them over to underdeveloped worlds where we can get cheaper labor and make our product far more efficiently. And that's kind of written into I don't know if it's in the Constitution, but it's written in the US law that you have to do whatever in the best interest of the shareholders, not necessarily the country. That's the whole, like, what Donald Trump thing he's against like stuff going over China. Just
take a vote, though. Just call it like.
Yeah, no, obviously if the shareholders all agree that the best course of action is true by keeping it in America, or the best course of action is to give it to a random person. Fair enough. All the board holders would then have to. What he could have done is like just given his shares to a person. But even that,
that's probably what he's going to be doing.
Yeah, no, even that like would probably actually cause legal action against him, because it could be seen to devalue the shares of that everyone else has. So if you give like, let's say if he owns 40% of the business and he gives those shares to someone for €1, not only does he devalues all the whole 100% of the shares of the whole company, because he gave them away for €1. So if he gives them away for free, it does the exact same thing. So it's like there could be legal issues like that over it.
Maybe he hates all the shareholders.
Yeah, like he could be like, I'm done with this world of like shareholders and business meetings and like graphs and like percentage points. He's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to give away some child.
It's just some kid eating a pack of sweets. He's going to own this company.
Yeah, like
Goodbye.
yeah, exactly. That's why he didn't put in the packaging. He would never get it through like the assembly line with like shareholders causing some kind of legal action. He's probably had to go off, like find some company to make him necklaces. Is like, go, like, yeah, like that's not a part of the company.
That's how they did do you remember the white chocolate cream egg?
Yeah.
That was a scam, kind of.
Was it? What do you mean?
Yeah, you could only get them in the UK.
Oh, shit.
Because there was like a guy specifically tasked with, the shareholders would decide on what town they were going to drop a cream egg into, and he would walk into the shop and he'd place it in the shop. It never came in a packet because they had to account for staff in the manufacturing line stealing them. So they specifically had people hand making them, so they knew how many were made and how many went missing.
Oh, and it was all just in the UK. They didn't bring one over to Ireland.
Yeah, like this guy just drove around the UK dropping them off in shops.
That makes sense.
And he wouldn't even tell the owners that. Like, he'd just walk into a shop and just place it on a shelf.
All right. Imagine you got done for stealing or something like that. Even though it's the opposite. Are we dropping your sweets behind?
Yeah. What's going on here?
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess, well, good luck in your treasure hunt, Ken. I hope it keeps fine for you.
Yeah.
You could be a long list of... Well, did you go to college, Ken?
No.
Okay, so if you win this, you could be a long line of entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs that did not go to college. And the reason I bring this up is because right now we're going to be talking about whether or not college
Coincidentally,
whether or not college is important or not. Entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, just to name a few, who either dropped out of college or didn't go to college at all, and have come out publicly to say that you don't actually really, like, college is useless. And they're kind of talking from an American point of stand, where college is extremely expensive, and like you wouldn't see 50 grand go on a college degree. Whereas if you took that money and you're heavily indebting yourself in order to get this qualification, and they're saying after the college, like the experience that you get, or the ability to make sure that like people who go to college are the best person for a job, necessarily isn't the case. So what's your stance on college, and if it's important or not?
Well, college is obviously important for certain things. Like, it's more... I'd be more inclined to say like the leaving cert and like stuff like that isn't as important as they tell you it is. College is kind of important because obviously you can't really learn to be a doctor or something like that on the job.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, but like you could probably learn some other things that they would teach in college on the job.
You're not going to be like, if you apply for like a lawyer position or a job in a law firm, you're like, I watch Judge Judy every day. They're going to be like, I don't care how much you watch Judge Judy. You are not getting into this position without being into college. One Elon Musk says is, it's not necessarily a guarantee that this person has the potential to do anything if they come in with a degree. More that it could be like, it's good kind of starting point. It's showing that at least they've shown a dedication to stick with a subject or a course for 4 years and knuckle down and get a qualification. So it could be like insight. But he said what's more important is, if you didn't go to college, what have you done since then? If you can like prove, I know like stuff like mechanics. I remember my engineering teacher, he just randomly brought this up when we were in class once. He was just like, I think we were coming up near, we were doing our leaving cert, and he's like, I didn't like school when I was in school. Like, I wasn't too fussed about it, and I couldn't wait to get out of school. I ended up getting an apprenticeship. From there, I kind of worked my way up the ladder. It wasn't until later on in life that I went back and I went to college to do like an engineering degree. And he said, I didn't learn anything new from this engineering degree. I already knew most of the stuff there. And he said, it doesn't matter, like, if you to college and you go get your engineering degree, you'll start further up the ladder than what you would if you leave school and get an apprenticeship. But you learn the same thing, and at the end of the day, experience counts very more. So even though if you leave school and do your apprenticeship and you work 4 years on site, you have that experience over the person coming in. They're going to probably get the position over you because they have the degree, but the experience is what people value more than a piece of paper. And he said, like, I learned the same thing. It doesn't matter, like, it doesn't really make a difference whether you go through college or go through apprenticeship. I learned the same thing. And even like did media. Imagine if I finished school in 2009. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have been I wouldn't be going to college to learn about YouTube. I wouldn't be going to college. I wouldn't be talking about how to upload videos onto Facebook or how IGTV would work. And if you look at like all media companies, like media used to be separated into reading, which is newspapers, blogs, very little blogs, but newspaper and blogs. Then audio, which is just solely kind of radio, and then video, which would have been TV. And now they're one thing. Like if you go to a media course, you learn video and you learn audio, because radio stations, they need a person who can edit and upload videos to their Facebook pages, and they need a person who can write a blog, and they need a person who can talk on air. So it's all kind of coming to blend it into one media. And you wouldn't have learned that like back in 2009. Your qualification from 2009 wouldn't get you a job today in a radio station.
Yeah, like, and then like with the Leaving Cert thing, just seeing as people have gotten their Leaving Cert results and shit, if you didn't get the points that you needed to do a course in the Leaving Cert, like you can go back as a mature student and do that course because you've got the life experience. Yeah, like that's the other thing. That's more to do with the Leaving Cert, which I do agree. One of the nuances that I had about Leaving Cert is all the Leaving Cert really teaches it is how to regurgitate information. Is like over the next 2 years, we're going to go through a large body of subjects, and some of it won't come, vast majority won't come up, but other stuff will come up, and we're going to test to see how much of that's stuck in your brain and how much you can write down on a piece of paper, and then that qualification is meant to determine your future. It isn't the case, luckily enough, because it would be very, very poor way of determining people's future if it was. Now, there are like courses after you leave college. You need to learn you need to retain a large body of information, such as like law degrees, medicine, engineering, stuff like that, where you do need to be able to take in a large body of information and be able to retain that information. So it is an important skill, but it isn't necessarily the be all and end all for most careers. Like if you're anyway creative, you pretty much don't need to remember anything. All it really is repetition. Yes, there are other kind of like Leaving Cert doesn't really kind of teach you anything other than regurgitation. If you try to apply for a job in an area that there's a college course, it's still seen as employers as a standard of quality. So there is that to it. It kind of means like when you're going in for an interview for a job, you're going to be sitting down, there's going to be 8 or 9, 10 people sitting beside you going for the exact same job, and they're not going to know who's going to work out. So they're going to pick the most qualified people. So if you have like a good Leaving Cert, if you did well in the course that the job you're applying for, that's going to stand to you. And a lot of people actually pick people from college. So there's a lot of recruiting from college courses. So a lot of people will get jobs from doing their course. Companies will go in to look at the applicants, take the best ones from there. So it can necessarily lead to a job doing college courses if it is in a certain area that you want to get into. Like there are a lot of bullshit courses now in saying that. Yeah, there's some courses that you could learn what you needed to learn just by actually doing the job. 100%. If you could get into a business and start at the bottom level up, you a lot of jobs, like even something like engineering, something like mechanics. That's why there's apprenticeships there, where you're on site to do on-site training,
as well as like that. And even like stuff like media, like I taught myself how to do video edit, and there's a lot of people there who taught themselves who get jobs in photography. Professional photographer, never in her life studied photography at all. Same with makeup, never studied makeup, and does photography and makeup as her career. Literally just do girls photo shoots for modeling. She knew a lot of girls who wanted to do modeling and used to pay like a small amount for them to do modeling. My barber said he learned how to cut hair by cutting his friend's hair, and he used to cut them in the shed, and that's how he got his experience, just trial by error. And there's loads of people that like have done it. And like, even if you think about like any industry that was created, generally it's done by people who don't really know what they're doing and kind of figure out as they go along. They become successful, so people want to know how they did it, and that's how courses are born. Like, why would you go, like one of the ones like social media courses, I'm like, why would you spend good money to go do a social media course? Like, I don't, like, there's stuff like that. And there's like a rock school course in Ballyfermot, I remember, and I couldn't understand why people would go to a rock school.
Yeah, I applied for that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Like, it seems cool. It seems like, oh, cool, I really want to go to a rock school. I know why people would apply to it, but like, if you look at like Dave Grohl, if you look at Kurt Cobain, you look at Jimi Hendrix, do you honestly think if they were offered to go to a rock school, they would?
You see, it's more the course in Ballyfermot. It's more like they get you to like form a band and shit.
Yeah.
And you learn how to write songs, and you learn how to like hone the skills that you already have.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't get into it, but like you have to be really, really good.
Yeah. See, like, I kind of feel like if you took the time, if you kind of knew people who wanted to be in a band, and you took the time to try to write songs. And like, especially with now with the internet, where you can like look at videos where people put up free videos on YouTube where they talk about writing songs. I remember over the coronavirus lockdown period, I was trying to learn how to do animation. I was trying to reteach myself how to do animation, and I was overwhelmed by the amount of content that was there to show you how to use all the. Not Audacity, the Adobe kind of software, and then there's other people showing you how to use free software and like really good step-by-step instructionals. And even this podcast that I'm doing today, I learned everything how to upload this podcast via the internet. Like, I did do a 10-week course on radio production. Very little of it I use in my in the podcast. The only thing I really use is the the audio editing, which I could have learned off the back of YouTube videos, or did radio. They taught me how to do audio editing as well. So there are back doors into doing whatever you like, particularly if it is in media. You don't really even need to go to get an employer. A lot of media companies are the self-built media companies. Like, look at Joe.ie. There wasn't a course how to be an online blogger that uploads podcasts, videos, and do like that. That's all self-taught.
Like, that's how most things start. Like what's your man's name? The guy who did the very first podcast. Joe Rogan had him on.
Yeah, he had him on recently enough. I don't actually know his name.
Yeah, like, he didn't think that was going to take off.
No, and then obviously Joe Rogan seen and said, "Oh, this is the future." One thing I would say about people going to college, I do think people should go. Like, the experience of being in college, I thought was pretty good, because you're straight out of school and you're thinking, oh, it's going to be like school. It's not really going to be like school. It's like you're given a lot more freedom. You're more growing up. It's more of a laid back atmosphere. You get to have the crack for 4 years. It's just that, like, the idea that, like, in order for you to be successful in a career or at something, that you need to go to college is probably not the case anymore. Now, if you dedicate yourself to something that you want, there are means and ways of doing it that are a lot cheaper than going to college. There are like online courses that you can go to, or like 10-week courses here, 10-week courses there, that over time that are half the price of college is that if you kind of dedicate yourself to learning the ins and out of these things. I know people who are sports scientists, they can't do a push-up. I know people who are nutritionists that have honestly learned nothing from their nutritionist course. Like, went in their perception of what nutrition is and have kept that perception and just been closed-minded. They managed to get to qualification because they sat there through whatever weeks. But like, honestly, like, especially personal trainers, I've met some absolutely awful personal trainers. That course does not, to me, signal a quality in being able to actually teach anybody. The amount of bullshit PTs out there is like astonishing. Like, I know.
You see, that goes back to what you were saying about like just regurgitating information.
Yeah, and
like you're regurgitating information without actually changing your mind on whether or not.
Yeah, I
think it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Now, in saying that, like, if you wanted to be a personal trainer and if you were really into exercising, you might know how to do bench press. You might know how to do squat. You might really know your ins and outs. You might have like read up on nutrition. You know your ins and outs. You will not get a job in any sort of gym without some minor course that you've done in personal training, because their insurance companies just won't take you on. Now, you could go and open up your own smaller gym yourself. You can do PTs that way. But even at that, if someone ever gets injured and your insurance company goes, so where's your qualification in personal training? You're gonna be like, cough, 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 and some insurance, if you're not qualified in as a personal trainer, will not insure you to own your own gym. That's not going to be the case. So colleges, like, okay, they're not the gold standard anymore that you know what you're talking about, but they make it a lot easier to get a job in that subject. It's still seen as a substantial thing to have, I think.
I suppose as well, like some college courses are good for whereas in school you're kind of like, this is a fact and that's the end of it. You're probably encouraged a little bit more to think about it and debate it in college.
Yeah, that's one thing that I did like about college. It makes you actually invest in who you're learning about.
Yeah, like that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, in terms of like people who might be fretting about they might get in their college course, there's back doors to every course or every line of work. If you don't get the points this year, you could always reset your leaving cert. You're only probably 18 at the time. Like, you've so many more years in terms of like getting your own jobs. Or you could just wait till you're 23 and go back as a mature student and just do like either courses or get work for until that time. You build up a bit of money so you can pay for your college courses and you don't have to get loans out. So you're debt free then. But I would say that people who do that, like once you start earning money, it's very hard to then go back and be a poor student. It's very like, I wonder if there's a part-time course I can do. You kind of depend on your money in saying that.
Like, you could do a course that will relate to whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think also if you do go back as a mature student, it's a good thing to point out that like you're more certain at 23 what you want to do than you are at 18. The idea that you got to at 18 you'll know what you want to do is kind of a bit nonsensical. Like, we're in a good few years out of school now, and I think if we look at the people who we work with and people who we know, half them, like, the jobs that they're doing now are far different from what they studied in college. There's only a very handful of people who actually made it to at their career that they knew what they wanted to be out of school and turned it into their career. A vast majority of people either found something that they enjoyed more or like have went down a completely different path.
Yeah, like, I left school. How old was I leaving school? I left school. I turned 16 in February. I left school I turned 17 in February and I left school in May.
Yeah.
Like, so, I was barely 17 leaving school.
What did you want? You said you were going to apply for the rock school. Was that it? Was this?
I applied for a load of shit, like, and I tried out for the rock school and I got accepted to study law.
Yeah.
But as a 17-year-old who wanted to go to rock school, I didn't want to wear a suit.
Yeah.
So I said, fuck that.
I left school and all I wanted to do was art. So I decided I'd be an animator, and I went off and I got into a PLC animation course, and then Ballyfermot, it was the college I went to, they had like 5 Oscar nominators. So the computer animation course that I was going into got crazy popular, and I didn't get in. Spent fluting around trying other artsy courses, and then I was like, fuck this. And I ended up obsessed by training. My whole life has just been jiu-jitsu focused.
I wanted to. Part of the reason that I didn't go to college as well, I didn't take the CEO application seriously.
Yeah, I was the same. I was kind of like you. I didn't want an office. I hated the idea of an office job. I used to think there would be nothing worse, because all I seen was this grey prison of these cubicles, a row after row of people just typing on a what you call it. And I was like, that will never be me.
I wanted to be a guard. That was what I wanted to do.
A guard who's also in a part-time band.
Yeah, I was going to do the rock school thing, and then I was going to wait around till I was like. There was a guard that lived down the road from me that was like, there's no point applying when you're 18 because they won't accept you. Wait till you're about 21. So I was like, right, sure, I'll go to rock school. I flute about in a band for 4 years, and then I'll be a guard.
You should have joined the GA club, because guards love a person that plays a bit of ga.
You see, I fucking hate ga.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. You'll never fit in. It was a doomed plan from the start. Yeah, and look at us now. We both vastly different careers.
Yeah, we have a semi-logical podcast.
We should go into our new segment called Idiots News.
Yeah, go on.
And Ken, this could be a one and done. We have
a history of one and done.
We had high hopes for Ken's sex stories. We're going to invest in getting theme music. We're going to do a whole thing around it, and it kind of was that's one thing. It was Ken had one sex story, and we've never had a sex story. Well, there's plenty of sex stories, never come from Ken. So we couldn't continue a Ken sex story. It
could be Kern's sex stories.
Yeah, more. For some reason, it doesn't have the same dazzle about it. But I think Idiots News could be an ongoing thing. And you're going to kick off this segment. You have a story about a kiwi pizza.
A kiwi pizza, yeah. So this dude in I'll figure out where he's from. He's from Norway or Sweden or somewhere.
Yeah, Scandinavia.
Scandinavia somewhere. He's from Sweden. For Christmas last year, his brother, for some reason, as all Swedish men do, gave his brother 10 kilos of kiwi fruit.
Yeah, it's a very exotic fruit for Sweden.
Yeah, so he got 10 kilos of it for Christmas, and he had no idea what to do with it. So he decided it's way too many to try and eat them all without them going off and going moldy. So he decided to use them for a recipe. He got the idea from his friend who's from Norway, who was always talking about bizarre banana-based dishes that he wanted to try out. So this guy thought, you know what, I'll get the recipes off my friend and I'll replace the banana with kiwi. So he uploaded a photo of one of his creations, which was a pizza with kiwi on it. Now it's a full proper pizza. It's the pizza base. It's got the tomato puree. It's got cheese, and it's got fucking kiwi on the top of it. Right?
Is the base made out of kiwi?
No. It's basically a margarita pizza with kiwi on the top.
Yeah, so you replace your Hawaiian pizza with pineapple. You replace it with kiwi.
Yeah, it's kiwi, yeah.
It sounds pretty good, actually.
And the photo of it went viral.
Yeah.
On Reddit, and it was described by many people as being an unholy abomination. and, and poor old, what's this guy's name? Stellan?
Stalin?
Poor old, yeah, Stellan, not Stalin. Stellan.
Stalin, okay.
poor old Stellan.
Interesting name choice if it was Stalin.
Poor old Stellan couldn't understand why people were so horrified.
Yeah.
But then he realized that he does quite love a Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah.
But the attention on Reddit kind of took him by surprise. So he kind of thought it was cool, and he was telling his wife and stuff, oh look, everybody's like fucking talking about me on the internet. And it turned out he was getting calls off like journalists and radio shows and the news to talk about it, and they were all telling him how disgusting this idea was. And,
innovators are always criticized at first.
right? Well, it gets better for him. Poor old Stellan. And eventually, with all the attention of it and how disgusting it was, his wife divorced him.
Oh, really? She couldn't hack the kind of abuse that he was getting online and divorced him.
So, like, he released a statement. He said, I made my kiwi pizza in January and the world has changed since then. The world is shut down and I got divorced. The pizza didn't cause corona, even though it has been accused of it. But the pizza...
Patient zero. I love the
internet. He said, but the pizza did cause my divorce.
I love the internet.
So his wife left him because she said the idea was stupid, and she kept getting really, really pissed off about how much attention this pizza was getting. So she left him.
Yeah, like I can understand. There must be other things going on. He must be in a hard man to live with. Yeah, this was.
And it gets even worse for him again. He's received approximately 50 death threats.
50 death threats?
From Italians saying that this is an absolute abomination, the pizza.
I love when people, and I was in Italy and they just like hung around outside pizza places because I wanted pizza. And every now and again there would be like, you'd always see one or two people have arguments with the person crossing about Hawaiian pizza, being like, what do you mean you don't do Hawaiian pizzas? It's just hilarious.
He said the most common comment he gets is about him destroying Italian culture and that he should die.
Yeah, like I remember someone go, I never in my whole entire life have ever heard about pineapple on pizza. And I was like, really? It's very popular everywhere else in the world. You should try it. It's delicious.
There's this actually. We went on holidays a couple of times to this place. Aiden's friend used to have an apartment in a little Italian town. Like, it's not a touristy kind of place. It's like they barely speak English kind of place.
Yeah.
And first couple of times that Aideen and her friend went there, they'd go to this pizza place and they'd get pizzas. And they had like a create your own pizza thing. And one of the times they went in and Aideen's friend asked for a margarita pizza with chips. So the guy was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. And something got lost in translation because he literally made a pizza with chips on it.
All right, yeah, well, that's what she asked for.
Yeah, she meant like, chips on the side, like. But actually put the chips on it.
Yeah.
And when we went back a couple of years later to stay in the apartment for like a couple of weeks, it was actually on the food menu, like for the fucking restaurant now.
She created her own thing, so they embrace other cultures. It was like, yeah, it's carbs on carbs. Let's do this.
Like a pizza with chips on the top of it.
Oh, that does sound disgusting. Yeah, so that was our kiwi pizza led to divorce. Another story comes from the Ukraine. It's going to feel like a very international show, especially with our idiot stories. It was a religious leader who blamed gay marriage on the coronavirus, and he has now caught the coronavirus. So it's a very odd way to come out that you're gay, for this religious leader. He came out at the age of 90, so he won't be able, like, the fact that he has coronavirus means he won't now be able to experience his newfound gayness, because he's probably going to die of the coronavirus.
Jesus.
Well, he is 90. Miracles have happened, but like, yeah, like, but more power to him. Hopefully, he's had this burden of coming out. Like, he got to experience his own truth. Yeah, but I've caught the coronavirus. Maybe this is God either punishing him for being gay or punishing him for saying that gays caused the coronavirus. But he's being punished probably in some way. Other idiots of the week was around earthquake that happened in the UK. It was a 3.9 magnitude earthquake. It was relatively small. I think it goes up to about 9 on the Richter scale. Tens of 20s of bins were knocked over during this earthquake, and there have been reports of some tiles on roofs coming off. But the reason why we're talking about this was one person was having a shower during the earthquake and mistaken it for someone knocking at their door. So jumped out of the shower, dripping wet, and ran down to answer the door to only realise that there was actually an earthquake happening and there was nobody at her door.
I don't know which part of that is weirder, like that she left out of the shower to answer the door.
She said, I walked down and I was like, hello. Couldn't see anybody at the door. It was like, thought it was like someone, and realised that like how heavy were people knocking at our door? Our whole house shakes.
Like, have you ever gotten out of the shower to answer the door?
No, like I've very rarely answered the door while I was on the toilet taking a shit. I was like, I am finishing this first.
Yeah, like, the only time that I would answer the door if I was having a shit, like, would be if I was told the postman's coming and you better fucking answer the door.
Yeah, if you're threatened against your life, you generally will do things. But by the sounds of it, this happened at the middle of the night. I do love the photo that was put up on the blog. It was just like there were some empty bins that were knocked over. The earthquake was so weak that it didn't even knock over bins that had anything in it. The bins had to be empty in order for them to fall over. I just waiting for the meme that was like, we will rebuild. And it's kind of like, we kind of get this even in Ireland. We don't really get extreme weathers. Like, there's a storm that comes every now and again, and it's like really bad. And like, there's like tiles knocked off roofs, and there's trampolines put into neighbours' garden. And we're like, we will rebuild from this. We will overcome. And there's like Florida is like completely wiped out, and we're like, we feel your pain. We've just went through a pretty bad storm ourselves.
We've just gone through it.
Yeah, we went through a pretty bad storm. It's pretty much the same thing. We're equal in this tragedy. And yeah, we live in such a safe environment in terms of weather patterns. Us in the UK, I just thought it was funny that like they are mistaking earthquakes for people knocking on your door. Yeah, I don't know where this next story comes from, but it was about a person was putting up an apartment to let or rent. And they photoshopped furniture into the apartment. So the first Photoshop was of a couch that was way too big for the room, that wasn't even put correctly. Kind of like, I know like we're one to talk about badly photoshopped stuff here. Like, okay, we're not great, but this is even worse than any video the Shite Talk podcast show has ever put together. This is like horrendously bad Photoshop in a room. And then there was like this vase that was like way too big for it sitting on an island, and they also had these stools that the legs looked jaggedy and were kind of crookedly edited and weren't even placed like that. They looked like they were sitting on the ground. They kind of looked like they're floating in midair. There wasn't any shadows to anything. It was just looking like a really poor attempt to like to Photoshop something into like a picture that they were actually putting up on their listings. But this wasn't the only apartment. This happened. The next one happened in the US, and it was of this oddly like ad that happened in the US. It was like a US based property letting agency had this home in an oddly sexual description of it. The virtual ad went something like saying it's a perfect place for romping and playing all night long. Like, what? Like, why are you trying to sell it like that? It's like,
maybe it's a shag pad.
Yeah, exactly. They charge per hour. Or in some cases, per the minute.
Per second.
That'd be 25 quid.
What?
It was definitely, yeah. So, like, I thought that was, but I think the one that absolutely takes a biscuit for our idiot of the week, once again, involves Chinese men and alcohol. We covered a story, I think it was last week, about a Chinaman bursting his bladder because he had 10 pints. This one,
Oh yeah, remember that?
This one involves a man had to get a glass bottle surgically removed after shoving it up his bum. The man is 53 years old and pushed a glass bottle upside down into his ass. Glass bottle was 6 centimeters in dimension and 5.6 in kind of length.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a big enough bottle.
Yeah, it's a big enough bottle. It required surgery to get it removed, and it went 6 centimeters or 2.36 inches up his rectum. So it was fairly much lodged in there.
For fuck's sake. I remember my uncle used to live with a girl. She was a nurse in an A&E department in Dublin. And she said she was doing a night shift one time and a guy came in with abdominal pains and they couldn't find anything really wrong with him from like physically examining him except that his stomach seemed kind of hard. So they sent him for an x-ray. And on the x-ray it showed that he had a pint glass up his arse.
Imagine he might mention that, oh, I might have something stuck up my arse. He's like, I have these weird abdominal pains. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, right, did that happen? They all just come on suddenly. He's like, yeah, this happened like a few hours ago. You're like, oh, you have no reason why it could be. And he's like, nope, none at all. And he's like, yeah,
and like,
there's a pint glass shoved up your ass. So you're like, oh yeah, did you not forget to tell us that?
They questioned him on it. Like they asked him, what's the story with this? Like. And he said that he was lifting weights. Remember now, it was the night shift. He came in at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
He said he was lifting weights in his room and he fell over because the weight was too heavy. And they were like, but why were you naked? And how did the glass not smash?
Well, yeah, I feel like, okay, why was glass upside down and how did it not smash?
Yeah, like, what?
Oh my God, yeah. And like, what was even more bizarre, this is not the first time the hospital had to deal with this. Back in November, the same hospital had to deal with a 17.7 centimeter long bottle that was up another guy's bum. This guy was 60 years old, but he had an excuse for it. He said he was using a bottle to scratch himself when he got a bit carried away or lost control. And he lost
control.
He lost control of the ball and it just went up his ass. How far was he scratching?
So he just continued to shove it.
Yeah. Why is it all lads as well?
Oh, like, what the fuck do people be doing?
Yeah, like it's like idiots of the week. That's all they are. Like, best for men. Generally, they are men. Every story so far has been a man. So
yeah,
we are definitely the odder of the sexes when it comes to this. We are the ones to do weird, dumb shit.
We are the ones to shove glasses up our ass.
Yeah, and have you ever got your anything caught anywhere? Like, I've definitely got my head caught in, like, when I was younger, like in bars. Actually, I remember it was a nightclub, and I was like pretty drunk at this stage, and there was like railings in the nightclub, and I kind of got stuck. I tried to step through the railings that are going like off the dance floor, and I nearly got stuck in the railings. There's a point where I just remember a bouncer looking at me like, I think this guy is stuck, and he was nearly going to come over and help me and probably kick me out. I was like, yeah. Oh, yeah, it would have been hilarious if I actually got stuck. But I've never got like anything physically stuck anywhere. But like, yeah, it just looks painful. Like you said, like, it's a big enough glass bottle to like shove up your ass.
So why do it?
like there's like and like glass bottles, like they're like he said he did it from like the first guy did it like upside down, so he went with the wider part into the shallower part.
First.
I think like there might be logic in that. If you can get something that big up your ass, right? At least you have a better handle to pull it back out. Now, obviously, it didn't work that time because he had to get it surgically removed. But you have a better grip on the head of a bottle to pull it out of your ass. There might be like method in the madness here.
Maybe that's what he was going for.
Yes, and he obviously shoved it a little bit too large.
A little bit too far.
To all lads and ladies,
it's always lads.
Stop shoving metal or glass objects up your ass. It's a recipe for disaster, please. Or we guess if they do, we've nothing really to talk about then on our podcast. Yeah. It's great content.
Yeah, it is. So maybe continue.
Yeah, maybe continue. Surprisingly, we aren't going to get through to our last two stories. We spent too much time on the others. But at least, Ken, we have less work to do next week on the show.
That's it.
We have two stories waiting there for us. And we might even get around to talking about whether police is a good idea for them to learn martial arts. Do you know?
I think that idea is gone.
Yeah, we should leave that idea. We tried it. It didn't really work out. It's open there for our listeners to have their own discussion about.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next Thursday with another podcast. Maybe even Friday.
Hopefully.
Sometime next week we'll be back with another show. And we'll talk to you then.
Good luck.
Shut up and sit down.